what are people doing to make a difference in CX?
Yes.
And you guys, in my view, have made some really good progress. I mean, I now hear that Hobbs is not at the bottom of the list.
So awesome. We're praising in public, correcting in private. That is a big lesson that I learned. I think that those are Doug's exact words every time I have spoken, with other leaders about this. And yes, it has been a enormous learning curve. I will be the first to always admit that to anyone that, I came into this process really pretty blind, and I was open to that. It wasn't like, my manager, when he hired me, he was very transparent from the very beginning of, we don't really know what this may look like. We trust your instinct, and especially as somebody who kind of came from the outside as far as the industry, in my experience, it didn't make a ton of sense of, oh, I'm going to go work for a cat dealer. It was a very surprising path for myself, but it's been astounding how much I've realized, and what it ends up coming down to at the end of the day for me is that CX is really about human experience and relationship building, and how we serve others. And that is something that I thought was really attractive when I was interviewing to come work for Wagner, is that is in our vision statement, and it's how they operate as a company. And so yeah, we're trying to turn it around so we can really live those words out day to day in how we're doing business.
So just briefly tell the audience that will be watching this
Yeah,
a bit about Wagner. Just
sure.
thumbnail sketch of Wagner equipment.
Yeah, so they're a fourth generation cat dealer. We actually just transitioned at the beginning of this year to our new president, Braden Wagner, which was a very exciting change in our organization. It we've grown really big, and I would argue, honestly, I think that we have one of the largest territories of the dealers in the US. But I would say, I think that we still very much have a family business feel. It's very welcoming. We're a team, and you feel that when you come in through our doors. I hope people feel that when they come in through the doors.
Now you're covering Colorado,
Yep.
parts of New Mexico,
All of New Mexico
all of New
as
Mexico.
well. Yep. All of New Mexico as well. And then upper West Texas, around the El Paso region as well.
So you just geographically, you've got a huge territory
It's huge.
to cover.
Yep.
Okay.
We
Okay.
have 27 branches currently, and we're around 1,700 employees across the board. So that's always growing. We're always striving to keep growing. So yeah, it's a rather large territory, and kind of a big elephant to eat in a sense.
Now you've been in this role, Kestly, 2 years?
Almost 2 years,
Almost
about
two
a year
years.
and a half. Yep.
Now, what were the most difficult things you had to do as you started this job? What were the things that just were tough to get done?
Sure. I feel like, quite honestly, the biggest challenge for me, and then it translated throughout, the whole company really, was we had to go down to the absolute most basic of what CX is, because I don't think we ever really truly understood it from the beginning. And so, whether that was because there wasn't one person who was kind of taking and owning the responsibility for that, and educating the whole organization. It was like, all right, we don't even know what CX is. We know that we have to measure it, and we're being measured on success of customer satisfaction. And I think it was just a box that we were trying to check that was a requirement from Caterpillar, but it wasn't about how are we serving the customer and how are we working to improve their experience in every touch point when they're doing business with us. So we had to go to the very, like, we had to scrape it down, and I feel like we had to build a foundation that was all around what truly is customer experience. What are the items, what are the actions that go into that, and then what are we not good at, and essentially it was like level setting across our, especially like our executive team to start, and then trickling that down all the way down to the front line of like, we are not good at this, and this is going to be the path we're going to have to take to try to turn it around and improve.
Okay. Now, you guys have made some good progress in the past
Yeah.
year. Very
Yes.
good progress. Very pleased to see that kind of progress happen. But again, thinking about where you are right now, what are the absolute must-haves? If you were going to advise somebody that's starting in a role like yours in a company maybe similar to Wagner, what are
Sure.
the absolute must-haves to make a CX program successful?
I think that once the level setting has occurred and you feel that your especially upper leadership is on the same page about where you need to be as far as, customer, what success or what the overall goal would look like. If we were really good at this, what would this look like and feel like? I think that it is the most important to have standards and expectations that can then be clearly communicated across the board so that everybody understands what they need to do. And and that's just the culture. Like, we have to, this is where we have to be, and this is what we have to do to get there. And like, we need to make it clear, because again, I think that there just was no or minimal understanding of what CX was. And so it looked different to certain people, and I think we were leading and it was very disconnected in that way. So there was no way to achieve our goal, because we didn't really have it clearly outlined or even identified of what we wanted it to be. So we created something very unique to Wagner, and I'm very proud of it. It's our what we call the 10 W's. And each department or division within our company has their own set of 10W, and it's 10 standards and expectations that leadership and frontline alike kind of came together to brainstorm and create what they felt was the most critical items for those teams. Of like, when you show up to work every day, these are what the expectations are as a parts counter personnel or a rental coordinator or a service technician. This is what I come to work to do every day. I show up, and these are the expectations of my job.
So those 10 W's happen at that local uh, branch level. It's
Correct.
not something that happens in your main office. Well, you probably have some of those too, but
Sure.
it's if I go into Hobbs or I go into Aurora, or I go into some other your locations, there are going to be 10 W's there, but they may be a little different depending on the nature of the audience they're serving.
Well, I guess, it started from our main corporate office, but and they are implemented down to the branch level, and again, that department level. But no, they don't differ. I mean,
Okay.
our goal in creating this was really to achieve some consistency, because again, when we're disjointed or disconnected as far as how does CX look for Hobbs, New Mexico versus how CX looks for Aurora, Colorado, it needs to be consistently or foundationally, it does need to look the same. So actually, no, I will correct you. It was
Okay.
intended to be consistent and the same for these 10 W's. Now, by all means, I would always encourage our leaders, if they want to build off of that and take it to the next level, Absolutely. And I want to help support that however it looks for, their branch. And they know their teams the best. So I trust when they reach out to me if they need additional support or resources in this effort, we can provide that to them. But no, this was really an effort to be consistent in
Across
CX.
all those many locations to have some
Correct.
consistency in expectations about how the
Yes.
customer is going to be served.
Yep. Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Tell me, what, if any, aha moments have you had over the last almost 2 years in this job?
Man. A lot. Where do I even begin with my aha moments? I think that one of the biggest aha moments for me was that we needed to move from denial to acceptance. That, we weren't very good at this. And that was a huge step for, I think, a lot of our leaders and for me too, because, again, I took this job. It wasn't, new news that we weren't sure what it was going to look like as we were navigating, CX for Wagner. And I do think that, everybody's path can look a little bit different depending on the needs of their organization. But yeah, it was a big, like, okay, no, we're not good at this. But you know what that means is that we only have room to grow and improve here. So that was one of the biggest challenges and aha moments for myself. And again, I think I know my manager and I had many conversations about it, and he's like, "Yeah." I presented at our all managers meeting, which was the first we had done in several years, back in February of this year, and that was like one of my opening statements was like, I think that this may be a little bit painful for some of you. And I'm here to tell you that we're all in it together, but like we have to recognize that we're not good at this. And that's the only way that we're going to move forward and then try to make changes that'll make us better in the long run. So acceptance, denial to acceptance, biggest aha. What else? We all need to have the same vision. And again, I think expectations need to be aligned. And that comes from the top. But most importantly, it needs to be in the hands of our front line. They, at the end of the day, will always have the most power in this because they are the face of our company and they are the ones that are working with our customer every single day. And so as much as us as leaders, we can preach all of these wonderful things and ideas, it doesn't mean anything unless the people who are implementing those items are also on the same page and they have buy-in in this process, because it really is up to them. And we can try to manage that all day long, but they need to be bought into the process as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
One last thing. Let's assume for the moment that you were Glinda the Good Witch in The Wizard of Oz, and you had a magic wand, and with that magic wand, you could do about anything you wanted to, but you only had one thing you could do to improve CX at Wagner. What would it be?
It would be to train everyone at the same time with the same message and hope that they can have the same takeaway. Training has been, I think, one of our greatest challenges. I would give the Daniel Group and my partnership with you guys, and especially Kim, my wonderful rep who I've become very close with, a lot of credit in helping me try to develop this, because again, I think one of the biggest hurdles for us was that we had to start from the beginning. We had to build a foundation. People didn't know what CX was. I still get questions about it. And so I'm like, gosh, where is this gap that like somehow there are still people within our company who don't know what this is or we're trying to do. And so if I had a magic wand and I could just, spread it over a very large territory, it would be to get everybody up to speed and trained on this, because it's going to take quite some time for us to be able to even reach every single person. Um, and we're having to include it as part of our onboarding process. We need annual refresher trainings. So, like, it's just kind of a continuous effort that I didn't realize from the beginning was going to be so monumental in this path. But we're chipping away at it. We're going to figure it out. It's just, that was a whoa. I wish this was a little easier.
Kestly, any final thoughts?
Oh man. I just, again, as I started our conversation, I just want to reiterate that, and I think that this idea came from actually a discussion with another CX leader who I've also become close with. He's a great friend of mine now. But how can we make CX more human? How do we relate all of this back to just the human experience? And that, you know, yes, we want to serve our customers, but are we being better humans? It's just a really cool thing, and I think that that's why I love this job so much is the human relationships and connections. So how can we make CX more human? I would challenge everybody who is listening or in a similar position as myself. How do we do that and come together to inspire one another?
Kestly, thank you so much for your time today. Fascinating
Absolutely.
conversation because, I know where you're coming from. I've had a
Yes.
lot of experience with Wagner, and you guys have done tremendous work over the last 2 years. And I'm very thankful to see that and look forward to see continuing improvement. So thanks a lot.
I really appreciate it. It was great to talk with you today.